let's start off with the Christmas tunes. People say that these tunes are really bad, and I don't really understand why. I know they might not be the best tunes, but Quell tried her hardest on the design and their stats. And we know that some of them reuse the same ability. For example, Ginger and Cosmo. And people are arguing about the designs and saying they're ugly, which I don't really understand since I think they're really cute personally, and Quell did her best, and I think she did really well. And people started hating on Yada, which I really don't understand. She's a really good tune, and especially the skin. In the Blush Crunch Discord, everybody voted for which skin they wanted, and people got mad for that they got this skin, which I think is super cute. And I don't understand why they got so angry, because they were the ones who voted for it. But most of the toxicity is from the community itself. It's not the game at all. Sometimes it is the game, but it's most of the players who play it. For example, if you go into runs, like you go into pro runs trolling as like a Poppy or Boxton, when obviously a pro run is meant for pro players. And I'm not saying Poppy or Boxton isn't pro, but they're just preferring players with more skins, and they're more used to doing runs. But when you go into the run and say ABC, they'll get a little annoyed, and I understand why, because they just want to get to higher floors. And you could make it to higher floors, but they want more experienced players. Now, about machine stealing, or any stealing at all. Machine stealing isn't really technically stealing, because, for example, if you're on a machine and then the Twisted's coming and chasing you, and once you lose sight range of them, you'll run back and go see that another person is doing your machine. It'll only make sense if they have a higher extraction speed, but if they have lower extraction speed, it would not make sense, and you should ask for the machine back. But if they say no, then that's totally fine. You can just walk away and find another machines, because those exist, and they're just helping you out But if you have a higher extraction speed, that would be kind of stealing, but it doesn't really matter that much because it's not big of a deal because other machines exist. Now for judging the player off of this stereotype of what their tune is. This does not make sense at all. That does not mean if a person is for example, Toodles, they go, but because a lot of starter players use Toodles because it's a decent character. And people get angry when they steal medkits, which is reasonable, especially if they don't need it. But if they're on 1 heart, then yeah, they should take it. For example, for stealing heals. If you're Cosmo and you're at 1 heart and there's a medkit and there's another person at 3 hearts, then you should take the medkit and use it. But if you're both at 2, then Cosmo should take the medkit, heal you, and then use it. But if the other person's at 1 and Cosmo's at 3, then the other player should use it. I know he can heal you, but the other player should still get it, since they'd only be at 2 and they'd both be at 2. Griefing, which is one of the worst things you can do to your team members in Danny's World. For example, if Pebble walks by you and your Sprout, then the Twisted and Pebble kind of loses this. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. For example, if you're Pebble and the other player is Sprout, you should stay away from them since you both have the same exact stealth, and that could easily lock the Twisteds onto the other player. But that is not technically griefing because it's just the stats of the tunes. But if you're trying to grief, which is a horrible, and you should never do it, well, you should never do it in general. I'm not going to tell you how. Say, for example, you're Pebble and Goob walks by. Goob has lower stealth than Pebble, and the Twisted will immediately lock on Goob. But if Goob says that Pebble is griefing, that is not technically griefing, since Goop has lower stealth and got the Twisteds to see him easier. So if the Destructor Toon has lower stealth, you should not ever go by them because the Twisted will probably lock on you, and that is not technically griefing.